My father was a man of great prominence, head of education with a doctorate, which made him a highly respected figure. One time when I came home, a question that bothered me surfaced, and I asked him why we don't learn about money in school classes. He looked at me calmly and explained that we don't learn it because the government doesn't wish for that subject to be part of our curriculum. According to him, the authorities determine what can and cannot be taught. That explanation sounded peculiar to me, and I continued to question, intrigued. Isn't that what school is for? Shouldn't we learn about managing money? He replied no, that our main obligation was to get a stable job. Even more curious, I retorted that the objective of having a job is precisely to earn money. He smiled and said, No, the main purpose of working is not just to earn money. Then I insisted, so why don't we just learn about money and skip the step of having a job? That's when he, somewhat frustrated, suggested that I seek guidance from my best friend's father, stating, You should ask Mike's dad about money. I asked the reason for his advice and he explained that Mike's father was an entrepreneur, someone who needs to understand finances well to be successful. Curious, I asked, And what are you after all? He responded resignedly, I am an employee, I work for the government. Still confused, I asked what the difference between the two was. He clarified that while an entrepreneur needs to know about money to thrive, an employee doesn't need to worry as much, as institutions like the government or a company will take care of that for him. With the mind of a curious child, I was reflective but followed the advice given to me. I went to Mike's father's office, knocked softly on the door and introduced myself. Hi, I'm 9 years old and I want to understand more about money. His response, though harsh, echoed as an important lesson. He simply sent me away. That's how my journey with the rich dad philosophy began. In the beginning, even after much persistence, my rich dad agreed to teach me about money, but with one clear condition. He would never pay me for it. He believed that once he did, I would start thinking like an employee falling into a common trap. According to him, entrepreneurs work to achieve freedom, and that idea, although simple, was somewhat complex for my 9-year-old mind. He constantly warned me, Never wish for a paycheck, my son, understand? And in my naivety I agreed, Okay, I understand. One day he asked me how I thought he earned money. I quickly replied, By entrepreneuring, of course. I then questioned how I could learn to do the same. He started by introducing me to the game of Monopoly, a tool that seemed harmless at first glance but contained valuable lessons. My learning journey continued with small tasks at my rich dad's businesses, which included hotels. I started by doing simple chores like cleaning floors and transporting tools from one place to another. As I grew, my responsibilities increased as well. I began working in the office dealing with marketing and accounting, even if just as an apprentice. Throughout this time he never paid me, but he was providing something far more valuable, knowledge. One of the methods he used to teach about money was the game of Monopoly. Initially, I became impatient and, in a moment of frustration, asked directly, When will you teach me about money then? He looked at me with a calm smile and replied, What do you think we are doing now? Confused, I said, We are playing Monopoly. He promptly corrected me, No, it's not just playing. Intrigued, I asked, So what are we doing? With patience he explained, I am teaching you about money. For example, you are learning how to buy and rent properties, buy low and sell at a higher price. This is one of the most profitable formulas to make money. There are countless ways to achieve financial success, but one of the best is applying what you learn in Monopoly. Thus, I discovered that through the game, I was being prepared to understand fundamental concepts of finance and investment, forming a solid foundation that would help me throughout my life. Curious, I asked what he really meant by those words. He explained that one of the most effective ways to achieve great wealth was to apply the principles of Monopoly in real life. Intrigued, he gestured around and asked, And what do you think I'm doing here? Confused, I admitted, I don't know. That's when he took me outside and showed me his house and hotels. 10 years had passed since I began learning from him. Now, at 19 I was studying at a school in New York. When I returned to Hawaii, I was amazed at the significant achievements of my rich dad. He had bought a parcel of land that covered more than half of the famous Waikiki Beach. Today, when you visit Waikiki, you see the impressive Hyatt Regency Hotel. That hotel belongs to him, a direct reflection of the strategies he adopted in Monopoly. Just like in the game, he acquired significant assets in the real world and held on to them, waiting for the right moment, when those properties still didn't seem like much. Back then, Waikiki was just a small village. My rich dad started by purchasing small commercial establishments, one at a time. Although it took time, he gradually consolidated a large piece of property. Eventually, he built what is now the enormous ROT Hotel, which he later sold for an impressive $800 million. This learning about money was a journey that brought challenges. Along the way, I also experienced financial difficulties for much of my life and even faced betrayals. However, these experiences turned out to be beneficial as they contributed to my personal growth. This is the true spirit of learning. Those who are afraid to make mistakes, as we are often taught in school, tend not to grow. The world has a balance between good and evil, right and wrong, highs and lows. Many people strive to always be right, always positive, but reality isn't always like that. In my childhood, we didn't belong to an extremely poor family by the standards of the time, but we had what could be called a poverty mentality. This attitude can be deeply ingrained and passed down from generation to generation. For those who are now facing financial difficulties, feeling trapped in low-paying jobs or dissatisfied with their careers, perhaps this mentality was something learned. Common sense often teaches us to work hard just to attain something, without necessarily pursuing what makes us happy and fulfilled. Who truly live what they teach and have practical experience in the field. It's important to understand that the traditional school system generally focuses on training people to become good workers in essential areas, like medicine, law, and other specialized professions. These are undoubtedly important careers for society. However, the system does not concentrate on teaching about financial management, accounting, taxes, or how to handle debts, which are vital skills in the business world. When people ask me how my rich dad gained so much knowledge while my poor dad, despite being well educated, did not, the answer is simple. Rich dad faced a life upheaval at the age of 13 when he lost his father. This forced him to take over the family business at a young age, leading him to leave formal school. What might have seemed like a tragedy turned out to be a blessing in disguise. In this new reality, he learned directly from people active in the market. His treasurer, accountant, lawyer, banker, and real estate agents became his true teachers. This education was different, practical, and he considered it more authentic than a traditional classroom setting. He learned from professionals who practiced what they taught daily. In contrast, many school teachers teach subjects that they themselves do not use in practice. A personal example was when I asked a teacher about a theoretical concept we were learning, the strength of materials, and whether I would ever use it in my life. He honestly replied that I probably wouldn't and admitted he only taught it because that was his paid role, despite never having applied the knowledge himself. The advice I can offer is to seek mentors with real experience in your areas of interest, the true teachers who can provide practical and valuable insights. This type of guidance can be far more important for real-world success than a traditional theoretical class. Choosing to learn from those who truly have experience in what they teach can make all the difference in developing an entrepreneurial mindset and achieving financial freedom. A true teacher is someone who practices what they teach daily. In my case, I learn a lot from those who are active in the market, accountants, lawyers, and bankers. They deal with the real challenges in my businesses, providing me with continuous learning as I solve these problems. Although often they earn less than they truly deserve, they are indispensable, as they help me navigate the complexities that arise in my companies. The wealthy often keep their secrets and do not openly share their financial strategies, often to the detriment of the less fortunate. Although I am not religious, there is truth in the biblical statement that the poor will always be among us. This relates to the fact that poverty often begins with a mindset. When someone constantly repeats that they can't do something, they end up conforming to that reality. My poor dad always said, "I can't afford this," using this phrase as an escape. This reinforced a scarcity mindset. In contrast, my rich dad taught that instead of stating, "I can't buy this," we should ask, "How can I afford it?" This simple shift transforms our way of thinking. A question opens the mind to new possibilities, whereas a statement closes it. This mindset is reflected not only in finances but in many aspects of life. In sports, for example, whether in basketball, soccer, or golf, each has its own rules and ways of playing. Similarly, in the financial game, everyone must find their own rules and ways of playing. My advice to young people is to discover what their game is and strive for excellence in it. If you found this reflection valuable, consider leaving a comment and showing your appreciation. This content is inspired by the philosophy of Robert Kiyosaki, author of the renowned book Rich Dad Poor Dad. We hope you found the ideas presented as interesting as we did.